And so we were in 11th grade, you were in 12th grade in high school, and we went to the same high school. And soccer was going on, and soccer was a lot of fun because there were about 5 fans in the stands, and 3 of them were me, you, and Molly. And I believe we've previously mentioned a little bit about our soccer experiences, about the threat of arrest and such like that. Well, needless to say, and I feel confident saying this because a lot of my good friends were on that soccer team. They were historically horrendous. Historically horrendous. I think they won 1 out of 36 games over the span of 2 years. Which was absolutely incredible because the way we were cheering, you would think we were like back-to-back state champs. We were on a run of a lifetime, but no, we weren't. And so this is your senior year, and you have a friend named William Carruthers, and by proxy, he was my friend as well. Well, we're having fun. We're heckling the other team, but we're also celebrating our team, but mostly heckling the other team. And that's kind of our claim to fame there. That's kind of a little bit of why we got in trouble. But anyway, this particular moment, they were playing the Tate Aggies. And there had been a lot of hoopla going on. We were yelling at their team. And to the point where a Tate Aggie, we were the Milton Panthers. So the Tate Aggie, he got a yellow card. And he got a yellow card because he did a play right in front of us. And the 5 of us, I forget our names at this point in time, but there were about 5 of us that were just nonstop for 45, 90 straight minutes. And this guy slide tackles, and he clearly hits the leg. Well, the referee's running. He's not seeing much. So we're like, yellow card, yellow card. And we're chanting and methodically and rhythmically. Well, what does the referee do? The referee pulls out a yellow card on the guy.
He booked him.
He booked him. All right. And then the Tate Aggie player stares at us and he's like, shut up. And first off, you don't talk to us like that. All right. That just fuels the fire. So we just keep on, red card, red card. He yelled at the fans. And then his mother, who's sitting behind me, says, can y'all shut up? Y'all are so annoying. And there is nothing that fuels the fire more than when mothers get into the picture. All right, I love mothers. And what I love more is when mothers get angry at something for no reason. All right. So it was absolutely phenomenal. Well, the game goes on. We're in the second half. Tate is like winning 6-0. So in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't really matter that much. That's why it's so fun. Well, old Carruthers, what does he do? He does like a little inside bet. He says, if we score, I'll streak the field. And this isn't a real streaking where you're naked, but it's a half streak. All right, so he's half naked.
And
for high school,
sorry to cut you off, but this is also, as you mentioned, a historically bad team, but a team that legitimately, I don't think they had scored a goal in like 4 games. So, I mean, he's putting this out on the table, and it's like, it's like betting green in roulette. You're like, oh, it's never going to actually hit type deal.
Yeah, precisely. And lo and behold, what happens? Well, Patrick Kiley hits a 45,000-mile-per-hour penalty kick. Not penalty, free kick. Milton never got close enough for penalty kicks. So Patrick, he's a beast. He could have played college soccer, but he just fires one in there. It hits the back of the net. Well, what does William have to do? William jumps over the stands, takes his shirt off, then jumps over the fence, swings around his shirt, all like this. He goes and hugs the goalkeeper for Milton. And the Milton coach runs out on the field and is like, stop, 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 no, no, no. And then William, what does William do? Well, William runs out of the stadium. He jumps a fence. Then he jumps the entire fence out of the stadium. Then runs back around. He puts his shirt back on and then enters back into the game, comes back into the stadium steps as if nothing ever happened. And then the next day, William got suspended. But it still was absolutely incredible. And obviously it was because we're talking about it 6 years later, 7 years later. So that just is, whenever I look back at my high school years, the soccer games and basketball games were pretty much top tier. It was hard to beat a culture that we created.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say William is really an incredible guy, and he kind of gets this, I don't know, it's not an alter ego, it's just this other side of him that doesn't really come out until those situations. And they call him No Chill Will. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's William Carruthers, and then there's, the guy that went streaking on the field and hugged our goalie. That's No Chill Will, and we love him. Honestly, we love both of them. But like you mentioned, the basketball games were a lot of fun as well. I remember specifically there was a women's soccer game where it might have been Tate as well. I can't remember what the school was.
It was Crestview.
Oh, yes. And I know you know what I'm talking about. I guess we do a slide tackle. We steal the ball. However, she flops. It's soccer. There's a lot of that going around. She flops, and it's right in front of us. And she's like laying there trying to milk it, trying to get a call from the ref. And we are just absolutely laying into her. Oh, my goodness. Somebody get her a pacifier. Just the classic barbs. And she turns to us as she's jogging back onto the field and goes, "Shut up." And you could probably imagine what we screamed at her for the next hour. The next 60 minutes were like 5 people saying, "Shut up." Like this, like a flock of seagulls, literally, is what it sounded like for about an hour. So, but there's something special about being able to hold on to something and like really harness that, especially when your team is bad. I mean, the women's soccer team, they were pretty good, but like the men's soccer team, it's even more powerful whenever you're really bad. Kind of the same way with basketball. Sorry, Josiah, but it's true.
Yeah, I think that's really what makes it good, is because we were terrible. We were terrible at soccer. No fans ever came out. And so we were the fans there, and we were having a ton of fun. And if we could get into the head of a like-minded or a like-aged, individual, keep in mind we're 16, 17, 18. These people are 16, 17, 18. I mean, we've done our part, right? Now it's up to the guys and girls to perform. But I tell you, when the parents start getting involved, it is just too good.
It's too easy, honestly.
Yeah. And sometimes the first parent encounter, it can be a little intense. You're a little scared because you're 16 years old and you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're just having fun out here. No need to freak out on me, ma'am.
Right.
But the 2nd to 7th time it happens, you're like, oh yeah, bring it on. So it's we aren't 30-year-olds doing this to 16-year-olds. I think that's a different ball game.
Right.
I will say that. Whenever you're out of high school, I don't think there's really room to go to high school games and start heckling 16-year-olds.
Period.
Yeah. But whenever you're the same age, you're able to have a little more fun. And it's a little more acceptable.
And also, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to really get into people's heads. Like you got to try out a
Oh
bunch of
yeah,
different, I mean, if they're clearly passionate out on the field or the court, then you have to find what it is and just keep hammering that little thing until they explode, right? But there's
absolutely.
also a little bit of a psychological warfare. Like in the basketball games, they would, if they're doing shoot arounds in front of us, I think you came up with this, but really you kind of disseminated the information amongst the, I don't even know what it was called, the student section, I guess. And they're 5 feet away from you, shooting a 3-pointer in warm ups. And you're calling this man by his first, middle, and last name and reciting his like birthday and home address to him because it's all on Max Preps, right? But they don't know that probably. So that's a little bit of a psychological warfare as well. Like, hey, if we beat these guys really bad, they might show up at my house. And I think that's anything to get the edge is what we're trying to do.
Yeah. I remember there's this guy, his name was Penda, Penda. And man, oh man, we had free candy. We had Snickers bars and Twix bars, and we were giving them out. And we kept on calling this man Panda over and over and over again. And it was phenomenal because he was getting fired up. Well, after the game, he walks over to the section. He's like, hey, can I get a Snickers bar? Because during the game, we're just yelling, Panda, you want a Snickers? Panda, you want a Twix? So I give him a Snickers bar, and what does he do? He throws it straight back at my face pretty hard, like he was angry at me. To which I responded, bro, chill out. He didn't take too kindly of that. But that's just another example of you just are at him over and over and over. You can play it cool during the game, but you know it's affecting them. And be
Oh,
encouraged, my
yeah.
friends. You put in that work, you put in that research, it makes a difference. All right. Now, don't assault them, right? Don't go punch them in the face.
Of
Don't
course.
tell, don't make it familial. Don't talk about how their family, don't bring in their family. Just stick with the facts. Have fun with it, you know? That's my advice to make it fun, right? You don't want to get too personal. You don't want to start bringing up family history because that stuff can be sensitive. But a
Yeah. I mean,
friendly Panda, you want a Twix bar? I
yeah,
mean, that's no harm, no foul.
right. And like, just the fact that their full name is not that big of a deal. But maybe don't go like looking up their parents' arrest report. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Oh, how'd your dad like that DUI 5.5 years ago? Like that. That's a little too much.
Yeah. That's pretty unacceptable. I think we would be getting in trouble if we did that. And
Sure.
rightfully so.
Sure.
No need to bring up past law breaks unless it was them. Unless it was Panda himself. Then fire it up.
Fair game.
Yeah. Yeah. Panda assaulted me with a Snickers bar. But yeah, that kind of stuff, that was a lot of fun. But you know what's more fun is learning about the past 7 days of yours.
Well, I'll tell you what, man, my past 7 days have really been not very eventful. I hate to say it. I know you've probably got a daily breakdown, with all the stuff that you did. But I'll tell you what, man, Monday through Friday was pretty typical. I've got
What is
I will
typical?
say, what's up?
What is typical for you?
Let's see here. I get up in the morning. I go to work. I come home from work. I eat dinner, hang out with Stetson and Molly, and then I go to bed. And I kind of do that over again 5 times. I will say on Friday, We got some lunch, not catered, just like Grubhub to the office. A little family meal there Friday for lunch. So that was pretty nice. That was good. You ever had Miller's Ale House?
I have had Miller's Ale House.
It's pretty good. There's one like a quarter mile from our office, so that's what we always get. But it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I will say next week I should have a good update on a golf tournament that I'm playing in on Tuesday. It's for CEF, which is Children's Evangelism Fellowship for Minnesota. So they're going through, they're having the tournament to raise money for the next school year. So that'll be fun. I'm playing with some guys from my company. So I'm sure that'll be interesting. I think one of them doesn't even own a set of clubs. So it'll be really, I'm afraid I'm going to have to carry. And if I do, it's going to be bad because I'm not good.
You're getting paid to go golf?
Yeah.
As part of your work?
Yeah. Well, they're counting it as so we get 2 volunteer days every year.
Oh.
They're counting it as a volunteer day. I was going to take PTO for it, honestly, because I've got some to burn. But they were like, "Oh, let's just one of the other guys on the team just asked about using the volunteer, and they approved it. So that's what we all did."
All right. Well, Amelia Gary, if you're listening, I am proposing something similar for our company. All right. That sounds absolutely phenomenal. I would love to help raise funds for schools as well as make it volunteer day. Also, my golf be paid for. That'd be great.
Golf. Right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else. Oh, big update. And this was from a couple of weeks ago, but I totally forgot about it. Our Publix that we live right next to, it's had the Conecuh hickory smoked for since we've lived here pretty much. But I was walking through the dang deli meats, sausages, bacon, things of that sort. And I look over at the Conecuh. I like to check it out in case it's, if it's on sale. FYI, it's literally never been on sale before. It's pretty expensive. But they had hot and spicy and they had original. And growing up, all we had was original. We didn't have the hickory smoked. But they came out with the hickory smoked several years ago and it took off. It's probably their most popular sausage that they have, but that's all they carried. And so for years, that's we just had the hickory smoked. And it's good. Don't get me wrong. It's a great breakfast sausage. But the original, just the nostalgia in every bite just takes me back to my childhood. So, and it's an incredibly versatile sausage. It could be dinner, it could be lunch, and it goes well with breakfast as well. So, that was kind of a tangent, but look, I'm just so excited that our local Publix now has 3 different varieties of Conecuh sausage. I reached out to him whenever we first started this podcast to do a sponsorship. They were one of the few people that actually responded. I think we've reached out to probably 10 plus companies. I think 2 has responded to us. One of them being Conecuh. They politely said, "I'm sorry, we're not really considering sponsorships at this point." I was like, look, that's all I had to say, guys. You didn't have to throw our email in the dang trash bin and set it on fire, So look, they're genuine people, and they make an incredible product. So this is a shameless plug, and it's a free plug because they're not paying us to do it, and they're not sending me any free sausage or anything. But you should go out there and get you some original Conecuh sausage. So. Let's see. Yesterday I had to go get my oil changed. So that's Saturday. And my method with getting your oil changed is I'm going to make an appointment for, I think they open at 8. I make an 8 o'clock appointment because no one's going to be there. They'll get to my truck first. They'll have it done in like an hour. So I drop it off and we're walking Stetson around the kind of the apartment block around there. And I get a call like 35 minutes later. And every time, a mechanic shop calls me, even if it's just, hey, your truck's done, there's always this like spike in anxiety that they're going to be like, hey, FYI, your truck is going to blow up at any they could say anything and I would believe them. And we've talked about this, but apparently my shocks and struts need to be replaced.
I've heard that before.
Right. Exactly. And I was like, yeah, give me a minute. He told me how much it was. It was a lot of money. I was like, let me call you back in a few minutes. I did a little bit of research. Apparently they're supposed to last 50K to 100,000 miles. And I'm at 125 and I don't think I've ever had them replaced or worked on or anything like that. So I was like, these people, they've never really done me wrong before. Again, there's no way for me to really know, but it seemed like it was legitimate. So I had them go ahead and do it. And they said, yeah, it'll take about 2 hours to do that. Because I was going to go play disc golf around noon. And they ended up calling me at like 3 p.m. and said, hey, your truck's done. I was like, thanks for that. So, yeah, it was a little frustrating, but I feel like good and well, just whenever you take your vehicle in to get worked on, there is literally no telling under the hood what's been going on. There could be a coon, living under the hood and I would have no clue. So
yeah, I mean, shocks and struts, man. I mean, my shocks and struts, I think everybody's shocks and struts could use a little maintenance, right?
A little work.
There's nobody's shocks and struts that are perfect. And my tactic whenever I'm at the maintenance shop, and I don't want to this is a pause in your week, because I want to finish hearing how your week was. But there's definitely there's a vulnerability and transparency that creates a connection, right? So I'm not walking in there thinking I'm bravissimo and know everything about cars, right? I'm actually doing the opposite. I'm walking in there with a little foreknowledge, right? I've researched the problem. Now, this wouldn't work in shocks and struts because I didn't know it was a problem. But what I went in there for, and anything they tell me that I don't know, I just ask them. I say, all right, let's look at me in the face, look at me in the eyes. And this is hard to do when you're on the phone. That's why I sit at the Jenkins Hyundai of Ocala. Jenkins Hyundai of Ocala, not the Jenkins Hyundai. Wow. Man, I got a little confused there. I eat my muffins. I drink their coffee. And I say, look at me in the eyes, Jason. I'm going to be honest. I have no idea what shocks and I have no idea what struts are. Could you explain to me their purpose? Could you explain to me how you knew that they were such a problem? And in doing so, he might just convince me that I might need it. At the very least, he has informed me as to why they're important. Right, so just creating that connection, because then Jason's going to feel bad for me, and he's going to be like, this guy doesn't really know what's going on. He's also 20 and poor, so I'm going to cut him some slack. I will only give him what he really needs. So I'm really banking on my lack of knowledge and innocence when it comes to cars to get me over that threshold. If they're going to take advantage of me, they're going to take advantage of me, but I just got to trust that Jason has my best interest at heart because I think he's proven that. That's just a brief word on shocks and struts.
No, it's a great word, honestly. And I needed to do the research to see how long they last, you know? If the internet said, hey, these are supposed to last you 200,000 miles, which I don't know if anything's supposed to last you that, except for, I don't know, maybe the engine, maybe the tailpipe. I mean, I know what shocks and struts are, but I don't know how long they're, supposed to last. So that's really what I needed the research for. And I kind of have the opposite philosophy to you. Well, first off, I don't sit in there because, how do I say this nicely? I don't want Molly and Stetson to be hanging out at the house on a Saturday and me sitting in the tire shop. You know what I mean?
Well, that's where you and I differ is you have a reason to not be sitting in the tire shop eating cookies and drinking coffee.
Oh. But yeah, it was and whenever I went in originally, I was supposed to just get an oil change like I said. And the dude was like, "Hey dude, you give us a 5-star review on Google, I'll knock off $10." I was like, I mean, $10 is like, it takes a lot of oil to like change it. So they're not super cheap. So $10 really isn't like,
you percentage wise, make it 20 and I'm in.
I should have been like 50% off and you got it. But he said $10, like, oh, it's so easy. I mean, to do something that I use these guys all the time, like I generally trust them. They do a good job. I was like, yeah, I can do that. Easy. Knocked off $10. And then you come back and tell me that the shocks and struts need to be replaced. And my $10 is pennies. It's literally just nothing. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did the 5-star review. Great place to get your shocks and struts replaced. Oh, it's so good. But
now, are your shocks bigger than your struts?
They are. I'll say whenever they change them out, obviously over time, as your shocks get worn, your truck starts to sit lower and lower. And they changed them out. I was like, whenever I walked up to my truck, I was like, did they lift it? Because it looks like it's sitting like 2 inches higher than it was, which tells me that they probably were pretty worn and needed to be replaced. So it's driving tight, sitting up higher. So it feels good. Doesn't feel good to spend that kind of money, obviously, but it feels pretty good. So, so that was Saturday, and the rest of the day was kind of. Molly had I don't even really know what to call it. It's a bunch of moms. They do like a Bible study on Saturdays during the day. So that was why I was going to go to disc golf with some of the other guys, but I didn't have a vehicle, so I couldn't. But me and Stetson hung out at the house. We walked some laps, went to Publix, came back. And then today we went to church, and it was supposed to be kind of a normal day at the old church house. But kind of towards the end of our Sunday school, which there's 2 services. We go to the first service, second service, we go to our Sunday school. The director, the preschool director or whatever it is, she leans in, she's like, hey, we're doing like the starting point, like membership lunch. And my volunteers backed out. Can you and Molly do it? And Molly said, sure. Because we know like the parents of the kids that we were going to be like watching, I guess. So it was going to be super easy anyways. But yeah, there was like probably 8 kids. There's like 6 babies and then 3 or 4 like elementary school age kids. So me and Tommy, we went out to the playground with the elementary school kids, and this kid, there's a bunch of different toys, little trucks and soccer balls and things like that. And this kid walks up, and there's like a little baby wheelbarrow. And he walks up, and he's probably 7, and he points at it, and he's like, "What's that?" I was like, "Are you serious, dude?" I was like, "It's called a wheelbarrow. Why don't you get a bunch of mulch, put it in there, and then go all the way over there and dump it out, and then come back and do that." And the kid literally, like the whole time, mulch in there, and he's just wheeling it over. I'm like, this is great. These kids, I mean, their parents have no clue, what they could tap into with these kids. Just get them a dang wheelbarrow as a toy, and they'll do all of your landscaping maintenance. It's so easy. And he had a brother that was with him. He was like, "Hey, I want to do it." I was like, "Y'all, this is almost too easy." And Tommy, the guy that I was watching the kids with, he was like, "The children, they yearn for the mines. They love physical labor." It's true. It makes me think if maybe the child labor laws might need to be reconsidered.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to have kids doing mulching for free, if they want to do mulching, we might as well pay them something,
Give them a Pop-Tart. Say, "Hey, you do this for 3 hours, I'll give you, one of the 2 Pop-Tarts in the in the little package."
I think that, that's such an improvement from free labor. That's the thing with child labor laws, is they're kind of prohibiting children from working. And it's not teaching them any entrepreneurship. It's not teaching them any working with your hands outside, because they can't, because it's illegal. And so now they can only do things for free.
Seems messed up.
Yeah, I'm struggling to wrap my head around it personally. But, oh well. But let me tell you what a testament that is to who you and Molly are. That 1, the kids director walked in and picked y'all. And 2, y'all just said, sure, why not? No reason not to.
That's what I thought. I said no reason not to, in the words of Bo. So, but it was a fun time. And I think we're gonna go grab lunch with them on next Sunday. So that'll be fun. But yeah, that was kind of our week. And then today we just kind of hung out around the house, did some cleaning. Stetson ate a lot of fruits, mac and cheese, things like that. So I gave him a bath, and his eyebrows were covered in cheese from the mac and cheese. So there's typically food in his hair, but it was just like orange eyebrows. He had just a circle around his mouth that was solid orange. I was like, "Bubba, we might just need to baptize you, just dunk you all the way under. That'd be easier." But it was a good week. It was a good weekend. And really, I'd love to hear how your days were as well.
Yeah, I'd love to share them. And even more than that, every time I see that guy, your son, through photograph and videograph, I think I want to see him in person. It's hard. It's hard to be as beautiful as he is. If I did the same things he did, they wouldn't be as pretty. If I put cheese in my eyebrows, it wouldn't be as fun. But yeah, next time you and Molly need to go on an adventure, I'll drive down, watch them, and it'll be that good. Anyway, 7 days, here we go. Well, Monday, what do? I go have rehearsal after work. Then I go to the pickleball courts later. There's a lot to celebrate. All right, this is post-Easter. Yeah. Can you believe that was a week ago? I can't. That feels a long time ago.
It feels like a month ago, honestly.
Whew. Well, technically it was. It was last month, technically. Monday was April 1st. No April Fool's jokes pulled on me that I know of. Anyway, play pickleball that night, get home. Tuesday, we got life group. That's a classic. We're studying Acts 21 and 22. And this was Paul as he was pleading his case in the council, the Sanhedrin. And they quickly said, we'll put you to death. All right, so Paul is on his journey to death. Aren't we all, though? So it's a matter of what we do on our journey toward death that matters. Anyway, Wednesday? What's Wednesday? Wednesday was actually quite chill. I think I got home and I didn't do anything. I made dinner, of course, but I have nothing to report. That's all changes this Wednesday, okay? That routine, that rhythm of nothing to do on Wednesday doesn't exist. And that sentence is a lie because there's plenty of stuff to do, but I quite literally chose not to do anything on Wednesday. But this Wednesday begins a deeper life course where we're studying different religions, different world religions, what they believe, and how they relate to Christianity, their differences, and how Christians can minister and serve others in specific religions. I think that'll be quite interesting. Thursday, I begin to develop an ulcer on my bottom lip. All right, this ulcer has been bothering me for quite some time, and I think we need to be sponsored by Orajel because I've been packing my mouth with Orajel, and this ulcer is just fighting through it, man. And I got it. It's my own fault. I ate too much sugar. I ate too many Easter candies. I put Sour Patch Kids down the hatch like nobody's business. And what does that do? Well, that rubs your mouth raw. And it creates the opportunity for the ulcer to appear. And so that was completely my fault. And I'm ashamed of myself for doing that. And I've learned my lesson. And I hope that I will never do that again. Because this is just not fun at all. And you think it's quite interesting. It makes me think, what are the spots in my life where I'm looking for that temporary pleasure and am not concerned with the long-term effects? And when the long-term effects come, I'm like, why is this happening to me? I'm leaving time for reflection for our listeners.
No, I think that's great. And I'll say while they're thinking, what are the ulcers in your life?
Yeah.
And can you think back maybe 6 months or so? Maybe 7 months and 13 days exactly? What was the sugar that I was consuming on a daily basis that has caused this ulcer? You know? Metaphorically speaking, of course.
Yeah, and let's go one step further. What is the Orajel we're trying to cover up the ulcers in our life? What are we using to try to cover up that wound?
I'll say this. Away from the metaphor, are you using the actual gel or are you using the pads, the little patches?
The actual gel.
Oh, dude. There's these patches. I think they're made by Orajel. Maybe. Nope, I'm wrong about that. It's sold in the same little section, but there's these little circular patches. Because me and Trevor, we get ulcers as well on the inside. I always just bite the inside of my lip, and then it's swollen, and you just keep biting it. So that's my issue. Trevor gets ulcers pretty bad. But there's these like circular little sticky pads, and they have Orajel like medicine on them, but you stick them to the side of your cheek, and they stay there forever. I've got like 5 in my mouth right now from when I was 13, but they're great. So if the Orajel isn't cutting it, honestly, those are maybe canker sore pads. Is it canker? Is that the same thing?
I hardly know her.
Canker, I barely know her.
I'll tell you, the Orajel is not. It's not holding, and this doesn't happen. I don't remember a time where Orajel hasn't worked for me. This ulcer is strong. This ulcer is built different, and at a time in our lives, there's going to be a time in our lives where the Orajel is not good enough. The Orajel is just a temporary fix to a long-term problem, and we need a long-term problem. We need a long-term solution to this problem. All right. Anyway, just be thinking about that as throughout your week. So, we're going on. That's Thursday. I also hit the pickleball courts. Shout out Bo Burton. Bo Burton is a first-time faithful listener of this podcast. I also met him at pickleball. Also, I did not get permission to share his name, so I apologize. But I'll tell you, he sets up the Savage Race. You ever heard of the Savage Race?
Is it Tough Mudder or is it similar to Tough Mudder?
It's similar. It's a competitor of Tough Mudder.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go November 2nd, Dade City. People of this podcast, if you're listening, let's hit it up. November 2nd, Dade City, Savage Race. We'll see you there. Friday, I go hit the courts with Connor at 11:30 a.m. Well, who's there at 11:30 a.m.? Me, Connor, and this brother named Rob. And Rob's a legend, man. Rob, he's just a beast. I don't want to describe him too much because, again, I haven't had his permission. But if I could, it would be a fantastic story. So, he's no Tom Lane. He's no Blood of Quetzalcoatl. But he's, just take my word for it. Anyway, what do we do after pickleball? Well, we go get the creme jalapeno. And I forget our waitress's name. I believe her name was Marissa. Well, I wanted to share something about Marissa. We talked about last week. We said, I'll give you $20 if you never let this chip basket get full. This is another reason I have an ulcer, is because of the sheer amount of salt I've consumed. Well, Marissa never let that chip basket get empty. I mean, she was pouring them on nonstop. I mean, we'd get halfway through our drink, she'd have another drink out. She went the extra mile, and Connor orders without fail, can I have a Coke Zero with cherry grenadine? Because they don't have cherry Coke. So they spike that thing with cherry grenadine. Well, Marissa comes out with a cup. It has the Coke Zero with cherry grenadine, and what does it have in it? It has a literal cherry in it. All right, Marissa took that extra step, the extra mile, to be hospitable and serve Connor in such a memorable way that I'm sharing it on this podcast. That's great service, Marissa. That's above and beyond. Keep up the good work, my friend. I want you to be encouraged.
Can I butt in here?
Oh, you can always butt in.
That's what I like to hear. It's at a place like Chewy's, especially. You want to make sure that the drinks never get too empty. I've had a couple Chewy's experiences, and you're eating that cream jalapeno pain, and I mean it's got some pain. Sorry,
Yeah, not jalapeno. That's a different substance.
the cream jalapeno pain. It's got a little kick to it, and I always get the burrito with the boom boom sauce, so it's a little fiery. And you can see me throughout dinner. I've got the napkin. My face is glistening from this dang heat that it's producing in my body, and I'm sucking down water as fast as I can because it's salty, it's spicy, But you accompany that with the chips, and you see her, it's a feeling unlike any other when you see that waiter or waitress come around the corner, headed to your table with that shovel full of chips. And if she just kept them coming and kept the drinks, full, that's a blessing. That is truly, I would say that really maximizes the experience. Like I said, I've had a couple times the drink gets low, even empty, because I'm just slurping as fast as I can. And I'm like, I got to hit a pause on eating this boom boom beef burrito because my mouth's going to be on fire. My face is going to be glistening, and there's no H2O to satisfy, if you will. So great job, Marissa. That's a long story to say great job. And, we wish everybody was like you, everybody in food and bev.
Yeah. Marissa, we love you deeply and generously. What day is it?
Thursday?
Friday. I don't remember doing anything Friday night. I think it was another wonderfully chill evening. I could be wrong. Saturday rolls around. Saturday, that is a day filled with pickleball at the church. I played with a lot of senior adults because that for the first hour, it was me, Brother John Park, who we've previously mentioned on this podcast, and about 8 senior adults, and that was a lot of fun. It's good to get in that multi-generational community, man. I've always been encouraged getting to share ideas, talk about life experiences, learn more about the people that have gone before me, that have lived their lives. We should be seeping wisdom, but we should also be caring for senior adults. And remember, our parents are senior adults as well. So they're anyone older than 50,
Truth
I think.
hurts.
Or 45, I think, is a senior adult.
Truth hurts.
The senior adult, man, it's changing. 55 is too young. I think, honestly, 75 and older is a senior adult. Maybe 70 and older.
Look, I think I agree with you. I think maybe it's because we're getting older, but it's weird to think of your parents being senior adults, But I mean, geez, the world wants to put these barriers, these guardrails on generations and ages and things like that. Me and you both know age is but a number, Love is love. So, but really, the truth does hurt. When you kind of cross that threshold, there's no going back. That's the thing about being a senior citizen, there's no turning back. You can't rewind the hands of time, I think is the phrase. So
You got to
not
get your
looking good.
discounts where you can get them, though.
True.
I mean,
True.
if I'm 55, I'm going in every place saying, what's the cheapest, most discounted thing I can get?
Y'all got any
And I'm
senior
getting it.
discounts?
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you can get a cup of black coffee for 65 cents. I'm like, why would I want a cup of black coffee? What can you do on the pancakes? Can you do any citizen, senior citizen deal on the pancakes or anything like that?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it sounds like a lot of fun, right? You get cheaper food, you get cheaper products.
Closer
and that
to
sounds
retiring.
like a lot of fun. Yeah.
More pickleball.
Or pickleball. So then Saturday keeps going, and then I go play a little bit of tennis. So that was another great adventure. And then Sunday rolls around, and we start a new series at church called Wilderness U, which is like a wilderness university type thing. And we're kind of studying the lessons that were taught to the Israelites who were delivered out of Egypt of the hands of Pharaoh through the Red Sea. Remember, we were talking about deliverance. That was that series. So we start a new one. And we're just learning the lessons of trusting God today. We learned about trusting God because these Israelites, they were in the wilderness and like, where in the world are we going to get water? And where in the world are we going to get food? I mean, we're stuck here. If you know anything about the desert, there's not really food and there's not really water anywhere. So time and time again, God's telling the Israelites, look, I'm going to have to test you. And this is what happens. Well, manna rains down from heaven out of a miracle. And it talks about, there's a verse in Exodus that talks about saving a bread for generations to come. All right, but this bread is also bread that you can smell has gone bad after a day. So what is that bread that you're saving for generations to come point to? That'll last generation over generation. Well, that's pointing to Jesus. All right, it's pointing to Jesus. Same thing as when the Israelites are talking to Moses and like, where's the water, man? We're thirsty. We got all this manna. We need water. Well, God tells Moses, hit this rock. And what comes out of the rock? It comes flowing a river of water. Well, what does that symbolize? Well, who is the church built upon? The rock. Who is the rock? Jesus. Jesus is the bread of life. Jesus is the fresh, living water. I mean, in Exodus 16 and 17, we're seeing Jesus. And the point of the sermon, I thought, well, one of the points of the sermon was, we see Jesus is always in the wilderness. And it makes us think when we're in the wilderness, when we're going through tests and trials, we can look back and see Jesus is here with us. We can be confident in that. The same way he was with the Israelites, the same way he was with those who are struggling, is Jesus is always in the wilderness with us. And the wilderness is what makes us more like Jesus. So be encouraged, my friends, if you're going through a hard time, if you're going through an easy time, Jesus is there. And he's always working. And you're always working to become more like him through the trials and tribulations. So I thought that was an encouraging word, a great sermon. I left being encouraged. I'm excited.
That's great. This may not be true. I thought I remember the water from the rock. I always thought God commanded him to speak to the rock and water would come out, and then Moses struck the rock. I don't know if that's true or not, but I always, in my mind, that's what happened. So I'm going to have to go back and check that. I don't know if it's true or not, honestly. I may be
So
mistaken.
Moses did a little disobeying?
From time to time, I think we could all say Moses maybe, disobeyed, but don't we all? I'm not sitting here on a high horse by any means. But yeah, here's a question for you, and this could be quick, but the manna from heaven, what do you imagine that, like, imagine you woke up, because it's like the dew of the ground, right? What do you imagine that manna as being like, for food at least?
Like the shape?
No, just like, how do you imagine that? Like, what do you imagine it tasting like, looking like?
Oh, so when we were in Israel, we had manna.
Oh, really?
It was a white square, and it was as sweet as could be.
Really?
But the Bible says what manna is. Actually, the definition of manna, I think, is, what is this?
Really?
I think that's what manna means.
Huh.
Let me see if I can pull up. We read this verse here.
And while you're looking that up, I'll just tell the folks, growing up, I always thought manna, because it was on the ground, right? I always imagined people woke up, they come out of their tent, and the ground was just covered in like the Grand's layers biscuits with the butter, like the golden butter. I just imagine them walking outside and kind of peeling up the layers of these delicious butter, and maybe having some Concord grape jelly as well with it. But that's just, that's kind of where my mind went with it. Maybe I was just hungry in church that morning. But did you find out?
Yeah. Exodus 16:31. Now the house of Israel called its name manna. It was like coriander seed, white, and the taste of it was like wafers made with honey.
That's literally a Grand's flaky biscuit, bro. No wonder that's where I got it from. I'm a scholar.
You are. You should write that in your commentary.
The BW commentary. Jeez.
Well, brother, we have rocked on this episode. I mean, we literally only have time left for songs of the week, unless you have anything. Well, let's do songs of the week, and then we'll dive into see if you have anything else to say.
My song of the week is by Young the Giant. It's I believe it's from their Spotify singles album. There's only 4 or 5 on there, but it's called I think it's a man's world. It's a man's world, maybe. It's a cover of an old song in the 60s, but it's really good. Obviously, the lead singer's got some pipes, so he really gets up there and goes with it. But that's a banger. I know you know that song well as well, so I'm excited to add it.
This is a man's world.
Do it. Just
and then
do
they
it.
come in.
That's the best part. Bum, 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 bum. How about you?
But we wouldn't be nothing without women and girls.
Sounds a little creepier when you say it. Says the guy with the beaver hat.
See, isn't that funny? As if we just changed the tone of a lot of songs, they'd be pretty weird. They'd be pretty weird.
No doubt. No doubt.
This world wouldn't be nothing without women and girls. Yeah. See, we got to have some song checks. That needs to be a part of the process, is singing them in different tones to see if they're okay. And that one, quite frankly, does not pass the check.
Not acceptable. Especially, Never mind. I'm not. I'm not even gonna go there.
My song of the week. No surprise here. Charity Gale has released a new album.
She
and
has.
There's a song on that album called "You Keep Your Promises," and that's going to be my song of the week because it's just top tier.
I was listening to it on Saturday, and I was thinking about adding one to the song of the week, but there's so many bangers on there. I just couldn't decide. So I think I'm gonna let it digest, roll through it another time, and kind of see what my favorite is.
Yeah, we should start. We probably need to create limits on Charity Gale.
That's probably fair.
We can each only add one song from each album.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you're just barring me from this new album. Okay, yeah,
No.
Fine. That's fine.
You didn't listen. I said we can each only add one song from each album.
Okay.
Meaning each of us can add one song from each album.
Fair enough.
Well, this has been an absolute joy. Do you have any closing remarks?
I don't believe I have any closing remarks. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. We're at the hour mark, and I'm not going to ramble anymore.
Hey, I want you all to know that we love you deeply and we love you generously. And we're going to see you in 7 days.